It's Kate from the Literary Apothecary, and today I am joined by two of my very good friends, Stephanie and Dry. And today we're going to be doing the Outlander Book Tag. We are all huge fans of Outlander and the books. And Stephanie is now watching the TV series for the first time on our Discord, so she's being able to have the full experience. And so you might have noticed on the thumbnail for this video that our lovely faces were replaced by some of our favorite characters in the series. And so we're going to just talk really quickly about why we chose those characters to represent us. And I'm going to have Dryel and Stephanie introduce themselves and their channels, and then we'll get into the tag questions. So for me, I chose Lord John Grey, who we meet in I think it's book 2 or book 3, book 2, briefly, and then we get to know him a lot more in the later books. And for me, Lord John Grey is one of those characters that gets a really bad rap at first because he's from the other side of the war going on, and then we meet him in book 3 again when he becomes the kind of warden of the prison, where a lot of so we should say spoilers also for the series, because we'll be talking about kind of characters that show up later in the series instead of just book 1. So just throwing that out there for anyone watching this, there will be spoilers, so plug your ears if you don't want spoilers. But we kind of meet Lord John Grey a little bit. We get to know a lot more about him in book 3 and then book 4, and as the books go on, more and more. And for me, Lord John Grey gets, the bad rap as is expected in the first time we meet him, because he's an English soldier. But then the more you get to know him, at least for me, the more you love him and the more you sympathize with his character. And the moment that I really loved Lord John Grey the most is when he is, I think it's in Drums of Autumn, which is book 4. He's talking to Claire about kind of, he says something along the lines of, have you ever loved a person so much but you can't be there for them because you weren't essentially created as the love of their life, and that just to me kind of summed up Lord John Grey's love for Jamie so much, and I could relate to that so much. And I get goosebumps. I have goosebumps on my arms just talking about that moment. But that was I enjoyed the character Lord John Grey up until then, but when I read that line on my reread just this past month, I was like, wow, that sums up Lord John Grey's character so well, because he does so much for Jamie and Jamie's family, from taking Willie on as his own son to, giving up his love for Jamie because Jamie's got Claire and Jamie's, not gay like Lord John Grey is, and he has to hide who he is because of the times. And I just love that character so much. And in one of the recipes that I did from the Outlander cookbooks, it's a drink, and it had just a plain name of coconut milk and rum and tea, something like that. But I kind of renamed it the Lord John Grey special for our future book lounge, where we'll have drinks and whatnot. I hope to have that as a main special in our book lounge, because it seemed like it was a drink that Lord John Grey talked about in one of the later books, and it just kind of feels like a Lord John Grey drink. So anyways, that was a lot longer than I expected to talk, but I chose Lord John Grey and I love his character. So Stephanie, you want to go next?
Sure. So my name is Stephanie and my channel is Miss Richards Reads. And I chose Jamie, the main guy in the series. He is my favorite because I first read these books 10 years ago, I think, and he was the first male fictional character that I just really loved. And I love how funny he is. and how he's in a time where things aren't as tolerated as they are now, but as he grows in his relationship with Claire, he learns and adapts and becomes more tolerant as well instead of sticking in the times. And I just think he's a really resilient, brave character. And you can just see the love he has, not only for Claire, but for everyone in his family and who's under his care and everything. So I just think he's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yes.
Jael?
You're not wrong.
He is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely amazing. So hi, my name's well, people on the internet call me Dry, so we're gonna go with that. And the name of my channel is Dry Books. And I chose Roger because Roger Mackenzie because he's not my favorite. Jamie is also my favorite in the series, but he's close second because he's a singer and I love singers. And I just like the way that, kind of like what Stephanie said, I like the way that he adapts. So the way that Jamie adapts is more going forward, right? And learning how to be more modern, I guess, with Claire. And then Roger is a lot about being more the soft boy and yet being a soft boy and like learning how to live in the world of like men's men. You know, it can't be easy to have Jamie Fraser as your father-in-law. Like that can't. That's the nightmare. You know. So yeah, I feel like that's why I really like Roger. I like how he understands the power in music and people, and he likes languages. I relate a lot to that.
Yeah.
So that's Roger. Why I picked
I
him.
think Roger in the books is a top character.
Mhm.
I feel like they did okay with him in the TV show, but Roger in the book series is so much better than the TV show. Like
There's
they
a lot
didn't,
of being in his head that
Yeah.
helps.
yeah, they didn't
Mm.
get. I feel like they only touched the surface of his character in the TV show, whereas in the books you get like in depth with Roger.
Hmm. I agree. You're very right.
So I actually don't know who created this book tag. Stephanie?
It was Sasha from A Book Utopia, I
Okay.
think.
So I
Okay.
will find that and I'll put it in our description. I first saw this on Peace Love Books channel. And she probably talked about who created it and I missed that part. So I will link both of those in the description below. So if anyone watching this wants to go and check out other Outlander tags, please go do it.
should.
I love Peace Love Books. I love her channel. She's fantastic. So y'all should go subscribe to her. And please, if you're not already, go subscribe to Stephanie and Dry because I love them to pieces. So let's just get into these really interesting tag questions. So question 1 says, you touch some standing stones and get transported back in time. What year would you hope to land in? So I'll go first, and I will say I think the 1920s, because I love it. Growing up in going through college and grad school in my MFA, I fell in love with the lost generation of writers where we have Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda and that whole generation, and watching the movie Midnight in Paris where we have a character that gets transported back to that time just kind of made me fall in love with that time period. And I would just love to go back just for a brief moment and be able to talk to all of those writers of that time and just be able to experience even just a night in the 20s with all of them.
That would be amazing.
They sounded fun. Like I watched Downton Abbey in its entirety for a reason. More than months. So you're right.
Yeah.
Should we do the same order?
Sure.
That's fine. So I was kind of oddly specific in mine.
That's great.
I would like to go to Canada in the early 1870s. That's when Anne of Green Gables was set.
Yep.
And I really like that it was still a little in the past, but you're approaching getting modern. And so it was a slower way of life. And the focus was more on family. And I just love the whole thing of Anne of Green Gables. So I would just love to live there in early 1870s.
Yep.
And be near the water.
That's really cool. So, funnily enough, I love reading about the past. I'm not sure I would like to go there. I like my phone too much, so that might be an issue. I'm also the wrong skin color for that to work in any way, shape, or form for me. However, if taking that off the table, I really like the beginning of the 1900s, so the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s, that time period right there. I feel like that was, right around the First World War, though that's not something I want to relive. But I feel like watching that change of the times must have been like crazy interesting. Also, it was also a time before Google Translate, and I feel like my ability with languages would be very useful at that point in time.
Yes.
Well, that goes into our second question. Claire is a very good nurse. What type of skill would you want to have that a fictional character excels at? For me, this was hard because I'm like, I think I attempted to do this book tag before, and I had a hard time coming up with answers to the questions, so I never actually completed it. So when I first read this question, I first thought it meant like, what skills do you have that would translate well into fiction?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't be very good in like Jamie's world because I don't have very many skills that would transfer well to that.
I would die. I would absolutely be
the
dead.
question, I'm like, well, obviously nursing skills would be like top priority because you'll have to take care of stuff on your own then. But also, like Dry said in the last question, being able to speak multiple languages, I think I would love to have that kind of skill. Then you can communicate with anyone that you come across, really.
I mean, you see it with Jamie in
Right.
Outlander.
Right.
He's so good. I love that about him, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. So I picked from the Stormlight archives, I picked soul casting because I thought that would be a really useful skill where you can, how to explain it? You can kind of change substances into something else. So you can change things into water or food or rock, or I think that would be very useful for survival because otherwise I would die.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So I thought about the magical things, but I decided not to pick something magical because otherwise I would have just like it would either be soul casting or something like Allomancy or something because that's just dope. But I find, and this is not going to be useful in the past at all. Actually, I think it's way more useful right now. But I would love to be able to draw. Like Shalon draws and like the way that she takes like the memories of things. I feel like drawing is a superpower that I do not partake in. I love like watching.
Go ahead.
No, I just love. Oh, sorry. You go and then I'll go.
Okay. We see that in Outlander with Brianna in some of the later books where she can draw. Like, I just finished rereading Drums of Autumn, and she is able to kind of draw what she remembers Roger looking like in the future because she knows he's come back, and they're trying to find him after Jamie kind of beat him up and sent him on his way. So she's able to draw a portrait of Roger, and then Jamie and young Ian are like, oh crap, that was the wrong guy we beat up, and so now they are off to find them. But
Yeah.
Brianna's kind of like the artist in their family.
It was quite useful for her. They would never have found Roger otherwise. Roger would be dead. He would be
Poor guy.
gone.
Poor Roger.
So yeah, it was quite useful for her. Let me see. I follow a bunch of fan art Instagram, for instances. And like I write fan fiction. So I like, to put random characters together doing things that I decide that should happen. But the fact that some people can make that happen in visual form is bonkers. I love that.
Yeah.
So I would like to be able to draw.
So our question 3, Jamie and Claire are ultimate relationship goals. Who is your favorite fictional couple? And aside from the obvious ones from Outlander, first of all, I just have to say here that Claire was not my favorite character at all in these books. I thought she did not deserve Jamie. So I actually wouldn't put, like, as much as I love seeing Claire and Jamie together, I would not put them as like the best couple relationship goals. Especially in the first couple books, like Claire just drove me nuts. But aside from that, I chose Tonks and Lupin from Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
I just love their relationship so much, and they like are literally willing to die for each other. And the first time I read their relationship I think it started in Order of the Phoenix and then it developed in later books. I was just like, that to me is relationship goals, because they are just there for each other no matter what.
I love that one. I picked Anne and Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables. Kind of spoilery, I guess, for the first book, but they started out as like enemies to lovers, which is a trope I love. And they're both very intelligent and support each other. And he ended up giving up a teaching position at the school closer to her house so she could stay with Marilla as she was losing her sight. And in the later books, they just continually support each other and raise their family together. And I just love their entire relationship.
I haven't ever read Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, sorry. Spoilers.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't find that like knowing a romance is gonna happen to be like a spoiler. I think if you tell me how it happened, then it's a spoiler. I think it is a spoiler. I really like Claire and Jamie together, even though I know that now I know that Kate doesn't. I don't like. It might be because I watched the TV show first, and then I just really like Catrella. I don't know how to pronounce her name. But the woman that plays Claire, yes, I love her, and then that might have colored my reading later. But I really like them. But just not to pick Outlander couples, I'm gonna pick. I like Annabeth and Percy from the Percy Jackson series. And I love them so much because I feel like I love like friends to lovers, right? Like the friends to lovers trope. And then they're exactly that. So I really like them. And it was one of the first romances that I read that I enjoyed, because before that it was Twilight. And though I liked that, I liked reading about it more than I would like to live it. So there's a bunch of those, by the way. I love a lot of romances that I would not have one to live in my life ever, but they're fun to read about.
Yeah, absolutely. So question 4 says, the ending of Outlander, which is referring to just book 1, obviously, because the series is not complete yet. The ending of Outlander was shocking. What is one book you read that totally blew your mind? And for me, I had actually 2 choices here because I have a hard time narrowing it down. And also because the first choice I haven't actually finished the book yet. I'm in the middle of reading. So my choices are The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And both those books, just the fifth season is the one that I'm in the middle of right now, and just from page one, I was blown away by the writing style. And then the Starless Sea is just, every time I think about that book that I read that a couple months ago. I like think about new things every time I think about that book. It's just like a never ending supply of surprises.
Nice. I have
I
it on my
did
list. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna.
nice. I did not pick the fifth season because I had a feeling you were gonna pick it. So I totally agree. That first book and the second one, just I could not put them down. But I picked The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick because I knew I would like it, but I didn't realize how much I'd love it. And there's so many twists and turns in the whole book. You're trying to figure out who the Rook is.
Yeah.
And when you finally get to the ending, it just blew my mind. It was such a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also haven't read, but it's also on my list. I have so many books on my list, y'all. I like how I want to talk to people about them, but I haven't read them yet. Especially because this year I'm reading The Wheel of Time for the first time. So most of my reading this year is Wheel of Time. But I'll finish it at some point. My pick. I want to pick the obvious one, which is The Way of Kings, because it was my first Sanderson book ever, and it did blow my mind entirely. I was so confused by the fact that I didn't know what was going on, and yet it was awesome. So I also had trouble picking. I didn't pick that because that's obvious. If you see my channel, you know. So I I got like stuck between two books, which is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness and 11/22/63, I think, by Stephen King, which is an awesome book. So both of those blew my mind because I wasn't expecting to like either, and I love them. So The Discovery of Witches is because it's adult Twilight, and Twilight made me read, so there's nothing, I don't need anything more. That's it. So I really like, I just like vampires, and I like gothic vampires and like the whole vibe. And I kind of like the way, what she did with that genre. That one. And then 11/22/63 blew my mind because it was my second King book, because my first was On Writing by him, but that's a memoir, so it doesn't count. And I wasn't expecting to like it because I'm not a horror fan. And it's not horror, so that helped. But I just wasn't expecting to like his writing style, but from things that I've heard people say to me, it just didn't seem appealing, but I loved it. I cried 3 times reading it. The audiobook was perfect. It was amazing. Loved it.
Excellent. I haven't read any of those, but
oh, well, if you like adult Twilight, maybe give it a try. I devoured it in one night. It was crazy.
So question 5, I think, was the hardest one for me to come up with an answer. Question 5 says, Scotland has lots of castles, and we see quite a few in Outlander. And if you want to see more, go watch Men in Kilts, because that show is hilarious. And like the actors that play Jamie and Dougal kind of travel around Scotland and show you the sights and the history and the culture, and it's fantastic. So sorry, quick side tangent. What fictional kingdom would you want as your own, castle included? For me, I was able to come up with like a lot of ideas on like what places I would want to like visit, but not necessarily live or like own. Like, I don't necessarily want to own a castle because that's a lot of upkeep that you have to do. And even if you have like all the staff to do it for you, that's a lot of support you have to give. And so I'm like, I don't want to necessarily own an entire kingdom.
No.
But I thought of the island of Avalon from the Arthurian legend stories. And that seems, from what I've read in a lot of the Arthurian legend retellings of King Arthur and Merlin and all of those characters, seems like a very chill island where like fairies and humans can just live together and chill out and be themselves. So if I had to pick an answer, I would say the island of Avalon.
Great choice.
I like that. This was very, very hard for me because kind of like you said with going back in the past, like I might want to visit there, but I don't know if I would be okay living there, especially because a lot of these don't have modern amenities. But I went with Rivendell, which I don't know if it's really a kingdom, but I just think it's gorgeous, and you get to live with the elves, and nature is everywhere. And I just think it would be so relaxing and peaceful, and you could just read all day and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it feels like the elves know how to live, doesn't it? That would be.
They have
That's a great
wine.
choice, right? Like they are great. It feels like their food is great. Their architecture is amazing. So that's a perfect choice. So I also got concerned because here's the thing: my favorite stories happen in places I do not want to be in. Not at all. Like the Hunger Games. No, thank you. I'm reading Legendborn right now, and she's in college. And first of all, college, no thank you. And then second of all, I'm already in college. It's hell enough as it is. And second of all, it's like urban fantasy college, which is more terrifying. So no. But I chose to live in Olympus from Percy Jackson because they can just say the names of like food and it shows up, and that's the dream. Isn't that the dream?
That's the dream.
So yes, I feel like that would be it.
You would be living your best life on Olympus.
Absolutely. I also would be, running away from zoos half of the time, but yeah.
If we could combine like Riverdale and Olympus, that would be the ideal world.
There's nothing else. Can that be my retirement plan?
Yeah. Well, like I also chose Avalon because I just read last month I read Half Stick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian, which is an Arthurian legend retelling. And it was a disappointing read for me, but we get like a lot of Avalon in this book, and like one of the things that they talk about is that the food on Avalon and like the fairy food compared to like our normal human food is like 10 times better. Like one bite of the food on Avalon is like an explosion in your mouth every time you eat. And so I'm like, you can't say no to amazing food.
Yeah, no, you can't. Can't argue with that.
So we all know like our priorities here is food.
Yes.
Right? I would also like to add that Riverdale has a bunch of very beautiful made-up men walking around.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
It feels like they have better knowledge of hair than I will ever have. So,
So question 6, Outlander has some steamy scenes. What is your favorite romance novel? And I had 2 answers for this because I thought the first one I thought of was completely obvious, and that was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which is like the ultimate romance novel to me. But like a more recent romance novel that I read is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is the first book in their series. I forget the series name now. I've read the first 2 books in that series so far. I think it's going to be like a 6-book series. And for anyone that has seen my channel before, my videos, they know that the first book is like 10 times better than the second book. And the romance that we get in the first book is much better than what we get in the second book. So I would choose just book 1 in that series, which is called From Blood and Ash. And I won't talk about it too much because it gives away spoilers for the entire rest of the series and the ending of that book.
I also picked two. Pride and Prejudice, I think, just goes without saying.
Yes.
It's fantastic. So both of mine are from Christina Lauren. So the first is The Unhoneymooners. It's an enemies to lovers book, and it had me cracking up the whole time. And she thinks that the main guy is a horrible person, so she keeps calling him Voldemort and making Harry Potter references. And it's fantastic. And then the other one is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and it's friends to lovers, which is another trope I like. And Hazel is just really out there and fun, and Josh is more grounded, and I love seeing them interact together because she usually just hits them with something out of left field, but both books are hilarious. So I like romances that are funny, I think.
The rom-com.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, I have both of those on my list actually. I'm not a romance reader, which is funny because I love watching Peace Love Books' channel, for instance. She only talks about romance.
Okay.
I read maybe 2 this year. It's not really my thing for some reason. I like women's fiction more than I like romance in general, you know? But so I did read a few last year. So I have some material to work with. So obviously there's Pride and Prejudice. It's been said. It's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. And I really enjoyed Beach Read by Ashley something. I forgot her last name. Emily something, right?
Emily Henry, I think. Emily Henry, yeah.
I
It's right
think.
down there on my
Yeah.
TBR shelf.
Yeah, I really like that one. I feel like it had enough angst for me to be happy because I'm an angsty ass reader. Yeah, no, like the funny romance. I'm down for a funny romance, but there's something about the angst that just pulls at me. So I really like that one. And then the second one is Outlander because I love everything about it. It's the slow burn that I enjoy. There's angst for everywhere. There is a lot of, I actually felt like she might not get the guy because she was already married. So I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time, which I felt like and there's this one thing that especially time period romances do that I don't like and Outlander doesn't do, that is like, oh, this person is so hot. So we just had this random kiss under their stairs, but we're going to pretend it didn't happen. And I hate that. I hate it. I don't know why. I know it's supposed to be hot. I understand. I just don't think it is. So Outlander didn't do that. I was quite thankful, and that's why.
Yeah, and we get so many different romances.
Yes.
Yeah,
Outlander.
you get a lot of because I like everybody else. I'm also, I like the basics of just watching somebody get together. But I enjoy so much to watch a relationship blossom.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best part. And when you can do that while keeping the tension together,
Yep.
That works perfectly for me.
I think my favorite romance in the series is actually Fergus and Marcelly.
Oh, they're great.
They're
hilarious.
so cute together. I just love them.
They're amazing. I love how she talks to him, how she's just like angry. She takes
She doesn't take any crap.
Yes.
Nothing. My girl, she's amazing. I love her.
Drea, I think that you would love From Blood and Ash, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've been seeing you on Book Talk this whole time, but Book Talk also recommended me Akotar. So I'm trying not to maybe follow every recommendation that they gave me because A Court of Thorns and Roses was not it. But I might try now that you got me the recommendation.
Yeah. It has that slow burn and a lot of angst.
Great. Perfect. That's it. Let's cry. The therapist is seeing this, they're concerned.
Yeah. That also makes sense why you love Claire, because she's very, very angsty.
She is.
And that drove me crazy. Like, I'm like, you are here with all of these Highland men and you're trying to get back? Like,
yeah, no.
enjoy the
I see your point.
Well, I think also we're Team Jamie and not
Yeah.
Team Frank. So
Yeah.
we're all like, why would you go back?
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
You have the better man.
Right. I mean,
Clearly.
like, I blame the books for that because the books built Frank as, you know, essentially the bad guy that we're supposed to root against. We're supposed to root for Jamie. Whereas, like, in the TV show, they built a little bit more sympathy, I think, for Frank.
Yeah, in the TV show,
As a
I
character.
was like, I understood why she was trying to come back. I don't know
Right.
how I would have felt reading the book first.
Yeah.
For that, because like in the TV show, Frank seemed like they clearly didn't have the same chemistry, but they
Yeah.
seemed to be like a fine couple, right?
Yeah.
So I felt for him, like this
And
boy
they, like,
is looking for
show
his wife.
Frank, you know, trying to find Claire when she disappears and stuff. And
Yeah, he gets a little bit more
Tobias
shitty
Menzies is
later.
a fantastic actor. I love him.
He really is. I like him a lot.
I'm glad they kept the same actor for him and Blackjack too, because that's
Absolutely.
just fantastic.
And he does a great Blackjack. Like my sister watched the TV show with me, and she like the other day we were watching something else that he was on, and she can't trust him. He was the good guy, but she's like, no, I can't trust you.
Yeah. I remember when I saw him in Game of Thrones, like that last season, in that scene where they're all together, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Frank.
It was the high point of that episode, let me tell you.
Okay, anyways. I think we're on question 7 now.
Okay.
The Jacobite Rising is a huge plot point in the Outlander series. What book has your favorite battle in it? And like a lot of the other questions, I couldn't just pick just one.
We're readers. If we
we're
couldn't pick
readers,
just
and
one.
like the first one that comes to my mind is always the one that I'm like, this seems like the most obvious one, so I'm gonna go with this one, and then I'm gonna pick another one that's a little bit less obvious.
Fair enough.
So my first choice was the Battle of Hogwarts, in the last Harry Potter book, and I loved seeing the old gang come together with the new gang, the Order of the Phoenix, come together with Harry's crew to fight the Death Eaters. Like, that just whole
She's like goosebumps again.
literally, you can't see it, but there's like actual goosebumps, and my hair is standing on end.
Look at that. That's a powerful scene.
I just love how that whole thing just develops, and the scene that we get with Snape, who's one of my favorite characters in the whole series. It's just like, it was so well written. It was like one of the best things that I've read. If I could like reread a scene or a whole scene, and that be the only thing that I would read, that would be one of the things I would choose, because it was just so well written. The other one that I chose is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I really enjoyed. I've only read book 1 in that series, but I really enjoyed that like final battle scene that we get at the end. I don't know if it would be like the ultimate battle scene, but I just enjoyed seeing all of the different magic that they have in that, and everything that we learned about the book kind of came to fruition at the end in that final battle.
Dope.
I've not read that, but that makes me want to read it more.
People have been telling me to read it, but I also know it's a corruption arc, and I'm not too fond of those. So I'm kind of in the fence about reading it still, but it feels like also I'm going to really love it. So I don't know.
It's also not like your typical corruption arc, though.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people describe our main character as an unlikable protagonist. But I don't know, I kind of felt sympathy for her at times. So it was kind of like, I found myself rooting for her when a lot of people didn't. So to me, it wasn't the typical corruption arc that you would normally get.
Oh, yeah. Cool. I'll consider it. Maybe I will.
Your TBR is growing dramatically during this video.
Clearly. Like, maybe I should go off. I'm such a mood reader though that I might just ignore my TBR and pick up random things next time. Sorry, I got in Stephanie's place.
So I picked two as well. The first one isn't really a battle, but it's the end fight scene in Jade City. And I don't want to say who it is because it's a spoiler, but I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And I thought it was so well choreographed and I could see everything. Yep. It was very stressful.
You clearly can feel that she knows, she knows martial arts when she's writing her fight scenes. It's very obvious and it's great.
Yes. And then the other one I picked was the battle at the end of Oathbringer. It was so epic and everything just it was a lot. It was a big Sander Lynch, but it was so good. It was so good. And it had me on the edge of my seat and I wanted everyone to be okay. And things happened. It was a good battle scene.
It really was. So I also picked a Brandon Sanderson one because, really, who else? The man, literally every time he writes a battle, I'm here for it. So I thought about a lot of them. I really like the one with Kelsier in the end of the first Mistborn. I really like that one. But I was going for something a little bit larger scope because I also really like the one at the end of Rhythm of War. If you guys have read it. No? I will not spoil it. That's good that I didn't say exactly what happens and when and with whom. So that's good. I didn't pick that one either. The end of Words of Radiance is my favorite because the way that is so cinematic and you can see it. And I'm a visual person, but not as much. When I read, I don't often, for instance, picture a character, I can picture some of them, but if in the TV show they change the hair color, I couldn't care less because it's not that hard fast in my brain anyway. But so it's hard for me to really see it, but that one I have vivid memories of it. It's beautiful. So I really like that one. And then from TV, the Battle of the Bastards in the Game of Thrones TV show in the 5th season, I love that. It was beautifully shot. It is suffocating and it gives me pain, but it's also amazing. I just found that it was really cool and really well edited.
Yeah, now I'm in all the feels. Words of Radiance killed me.
It was my favorite book up until I read Rhythm of War. It was my favorite of the Stormlights, but then Rhythm of War got a tiny bit up it. Though a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people say that that's the weaker Stormlight book. I just disagree.
I haven't made it to the Stormlight Archive yet. I have that scheduled for later this year.
Oh, enjoy. Enjoy, because now I have 3 years to wait until the next one. So take your time. Enjoy the wait.
Question 8 was also a really hard one for me to do. For some reason, I couldn't. So question 8 says, Jamie and Claire get married very unexpectedly, which is kind of spoilers, but not really spoilers because it happens in the first book and everyone knows. Which fictional character would you want to marry on a whim? For me, I had a hard time trying to figure out what characters I would want to actually marry, because I'm
almost every man that I've read about.
I was there was a lot of characters that I loved, but I wouldn't necessarily want to actually marry and spend the rest of my life with.
That's
so
true.
My two answers are very obvious answers. Jamie, obviously, because who wouldn't want to marry Jamie? And Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice, because I love Mr. Darcy and he's just I feel like he's one of those
about
characters
who wouldn't want to marry him. So yes, you're quite right.
I feel he gets a bad rep a lot of times because of his, first initial impression that you get when you meet him. Mm-hmm. But he's such a great character and he seems like he would be that loving husband that you would want. Like he would be there for you through thick and thin. He might give you crap about it, but he would still be there for you.
He's a little cinnamon roll on the inside.
Yes.
He is. He's so cute.
He's like a day old cinnamon rolled with a little bit of the crust on the outside.
I just love how like socially awkward this man is.
Yes.
I can totally relate. I'm like,
It's
I am
such a
there
relief.
100%. And to see it like in like the Keira Knightley film version from like 2005, that actor
love that
played
one.
him so well because he does the awkwardness like even better than you could ever imagine.
No, he's perfect. Perfect. It's just great.
Oh my gosh. I also picked a Jane Austen character.
Cool.
I picked Mr. Knightley from Emma. And I like his relationship with Emma because he'll fight with her, but he stands by her and he'll call her out on her ridiculousness. And I just think he is also a cinnamon roll. And I love him. And he and Mr. Darcy are like top two for me.
So cute. They're great. I really like Mr. Knight. I haven't read Emma yet. It's on my next Jane Austen to read. But I watched the BBC miniseries a while ago, and just he's perfect. I just cute. And also, there's a friends to lovers thing that I really like, and it just all works together so that I love him. I would also like to pick Jamie. Except I knew one of you guys were gonna pick him, so I decided not to.
It's just a given for this.
No, Kate already
question.
called dibs. Jeez.
That's why I went first, so I can say all the obvious answers first.
It's good to say that for all of us. I like him because, like, when I watched this making of or something, like when they're talking about how they cast the show, and then the guy says something like, "Oh yeah, his name's Jamie. I mean, Jamie's the king of all men." And I was like, "Yes, that is the description.
Yep.
He is the king of all men." I haven't read like a male character that beats him at all.
No.
So there's him, but because we're not choosing him because Kate's greedy,
I can share him. We can share him.
That's good. I like that. Become a fan fiction of Outlander where we are his harem. I am into it. So then I decided to pick. I thought about Adolin, but I feel like he's too cool with Shalon and her awkwardness and her behavior sometimes. Maybe that's too cool. He's a little bit too okay with the things that she tells him. So no. But I decided to go with what's his name? I forgot his name. The guy from The Expanse, Holden from The Expanse, on The Expanse series. So I really like him because he has his flaws, but he's also very assertive in like the person that he likes. So when he decides that he likes a person, he goes and he tells them, and he gets rejected a couple times in the series, but he doesn't take it. He's not like the nice guy kind of, like the hashtag nice guy about it. And I just really like him, and you get to see him in a long-term relationship, and it feels like he would handle it well, which is good because I can be too much. So yes, Holden. He also would annoy me sometimes, I'm sure, but I like him.
That's awesome.
Yes, we all have many husbands now.
Oh, so good. And some boyfriends, some lovers, like there's like from books.
I'm like there was many characters that came to my mind that I absolutely love. Mm-hmm. And maybe would like get together on a whim with, but not necessarily marry. Like I love Dougal, but do I really want to be married to Dougal? No. No.
I don't feel like Dougal.
Maybe Roger. He would make an excellent husband.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like Roger a lot. Yeah.
So, question 9. Scotland is a beautiful place. What is one fictional world you'd like to visit? And this, I had like a whole list of different places that I want to visit because I just want to go everywhere that I read. Obviously, Lallybroch, which is Jamie's childhood home and where Jenny lives. that just seems like the idyllic place to live.
Mhm.
It just seems so like, minus the English coming in and interrupting their daily lives, it just seems so peaceful. And
Their community is quite enviable. I agree.
yeah, they have a great community there. Everyone is there to help everyone else out, and you will get occasional sightings of Jamie.
Which,
Is always a plus. I also said, Hogwarts, I would love to visit and just see like Hogwarts in its day. And Discworld by Terry Pratchett, I would love to just
That would
be
crazy.
in the Discworld world for just like a day.
that's a
and
whole trip. A
see-
day is not enough.
I know, but like I wouldn't want to spend that much time there because it's so crazy. Like
It
my
is.
anxiety wouldn't be able to handle that. It would handle like a day there. And that's it.
That's enough.
Yes. So I had a couple as well. I would love to visit the Shire. I think that would be the ultimate relaxing vacation. You'd get food, music, you'd be outdoors, you get fireworks if Gandalf visits. Bonus. And I would
Good
also
gossip.
yes,
Hobbits are good at gossiping.
all the
Many
gossip.
meals.
Yes.
Yes.
Second breakfast, everything. And then I'd also love to visit the world from the Davabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of heat, I think it would be so pretty. And just getting to see all the djinn and magic that goes on, I think would be really cool.
That's great. Yeah, agree. Absolutely agree. 'Cause the Shire is awesome. I actually put on my list it's River. How do you say the place where the elves live again?
Rivendell?
Rivendell, because I always want to say Riverdale, and that's not it. Like, not at all. So Rivendell, I would love to visit there. It feels like it would be a cool place to visit. And then I almost said Roshar because of the friend. However, they eat a lot of seafood in Roshar, and I can't. So no, can't do it. Sorry.
But you can visit.
Yeah, I could visit, and like maybe it's something else. I also am quite
Non-mealtime
interested.
visit.
Yeah. Take a walk. I would exactly do, the thing that Shalon does in Oathbringer where she starts like to try to attract Sprin and she goes into like embarrassing situations or she like hurts herself. That would be me. That's exactly me in Roshar. Because I want to see all those friends. It would just be crazy walking around. So that. But then I decided not to. But I really want to know is it Nelthus, right? The place with Warbreaker, where Warbreaker happens. The world.
Yes.
So that, because of all the colors and the way that he describes like their food and it's all very tropical. I live in a tropical place. I feel like we would die, even though it doesn't feel tropical right now. So I feel like that would be a cool place, like to see all the clothing and like their pantheon. That for sure.
That would be gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one more question, and this was a really weird one for me. Question 10, if you would change the past, would you? Or if you could change the past, would you? I can't read, so. For me, I would say no, because while there was things that I wish didn't happen, certain events that I wish didn't actually happen, I've read too much time travel where I've learned that if you change one thing in the past, it affects the present and the future. And I would be too scared to like completely change everything and have too much of an impact.
I didn't think that much about it because I kept flip-flopping on my answer. So I think if I could change the really horrible things and make them not happen, I think I would. But if it was just changing something minor, I don't think I would. Because those are building blocks for me.
Yeah, that's a hard one because I was thinking, would I change something about my past? Maybe. Would I change, like there was a decision to cut bangs at some point in time that was not, there was like a few boyfriends that I think that maybe
Yeah.
not. But in the world, I was also concerned with the whole, the butterfly effect
Right.
situation. However, I don't think we could have made the world any worse if the Nazis didn't happen. So, with the exception of the Nazis,
Yeah.
yes, I know I wouldn't mess with it. But if I got the opportunity to maybe end the whole Nazi thing,
Right.
then yes.
I
Though I'm
I thought of that, and that was one of my, certain events that I wish didn't happen. But I also view things like that as building blocks for our world today. And I tried to think like, how would our world be? Like I considered that a kind of like a learning moment for the world. And like while I wish it didn't happen and it was horrible, I feel like it was a lesson that our world at that time needed to learn in order to become better. And if we didn't have that, I feel like eventually we would have that again one day.
That is a fair assumption. Yeah,
Yeah.
here's why I thought about this one. I'm writing fan fiction right now, right? And so I'm writing this fan fiction that weirdly enough has time travel in it, and this character tries to go back and stop, the Nazis from happening.
Right.
And then I had to like read a lot about it, and killing Hitler wasn't enough. You had to do a lot of other things because it didn't just
Yeah.
happen in a vacuum. And so I don't know how exactly I would go about stopping it. Because now I'm still finding this out while I write. But you also have a good point. Maybe it would happen anyway. So you're fair enough. However, just for funsies, like a fun thing that I would have stopped happening just because I would like to see what happens after it is Pompeii. I would like it to not have been destroyed because I feel like I don't know. I just would like to see what was up,
Yeah.
By one side, maybe we wouldn't have as much, historical knowledge that we do of those times because it wouldn't have been perfectly preserved. But
Right.
also, maybe the rumors would have lasted a little longer. That has a lot of impact in the world. So, just
Yeah,
for
I
funsies.
also thought of like, like the assassinations of Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. Like obviously
11/22/63.
I don't want those happening, and I would love to see what they could have done together if they lived longer and like were able to work together to actually create the change that they both wanted, but also like their assassinations when they happened
Also
kind
spurred
of
change.
right, it spurred change in itself happening. So I like it's just my point of view on life is like even the shittiest things that happen in your life happen for a reason so that you can learn from them and grow and change in the future. So it's hard for me to think of like even the crappiest things that have happened in world history. We learned from them, and
at least
some of us grew from it.
Some of us.
Yeah.
We try. We make that effort.
So I guess our last thing to do is to tag if there's anyone you guys want to tag. I'm gonna tag here Sharon at Sharon Dwyer because she's looking for more tags to do. So I'm tagging her. Is there anyone that you guys want to tag? And it's okay if you don't.
I don't think I have anyone to tag. I'm new to Booktube, first of all, don't know a lot of people. And second of all, the people that I do know would not have read Outlander. So like I can't tag Michael Nip to do this. I
was gonna say we should tag Michael Nip anyways. Because you don't necessarily need to read the books in order to answer the questions.
I would love to see him do this tag.
Who?
Michael.
Oh, yeah. Or I call him Mitch now because he's
Christy.
Mitch. Yes.
Christy would have really good answers for this, I think.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Great. I'm tagging Michael then.
Yes.
Now that we've decided.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining me today on this. This was so much fun. I hope you guys had fun too.
Yes.
Loved it.
And if anyone watching this wants to come and talk Outlander with us, I'll put my Discord information in the description below, like I always have it. We've got Outlander channels there. We talk about Outlander everywhere, and we have Outlander watch parties and Men in Kilts watch parties. We're obsessed with Outlander. We've got Outlander emojis going.
Ben shares daily Scotland pictures, which is
So many
so
gifts.
nice.
Yes, all the
Yes.
gifts. So thank you guys for doing this. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait to know your answers to these questions in the comments below, or come chat with us in the Discord. And if you saw this and you want to do it, consider yourself tagged too, because we can't name everyone. So if you want to do this, just tag yourself, tag your it, do it. Keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.
Bye.